There will be a day, Nicholas, when I am no longer of this earth, and on my tombstone it shall read, "I can't believe he ate the whole thing." Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, Dork Shared Gooniverse and Geeks Worldwide Radio proudly present to you, and I mean proudly present to you, the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's a comic book stealer fry guy, Nick Fryer. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. Together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club, baby. Nicholas, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. I wonder why you're accusing me of stealing shit. Is that because that AWA Studios continues to relentlessly chirp your ass?
It's fucking bullshit. I'll tell you what. There's been no greater champion of AWA than me, and then you come in, saunter in, you steal black tape, and all of a sudden I'm getting fucking kicked from all angles. Nicholas,
I
wish
I could say I am sorry about it, but I'm not a liar. I may be a crook, but I am not a liar. But anyways,
something.
Speaking of AWA Studios, of course, we've had a couple of AWA writers on the show recently as part of our March Madness, but we're finishing up our March Madness with something a little bit different. And if you're wondering, oh, what's this March Madness? How do I find this? How do I listen to this? The only way you can do that is if you subscribe to any of our audio channels, whether it's Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, SoundCloud, Amazon, anywhere that you listen to podcasts, major podcasting platforms, you can find us there. That is the only place you can find our Friar Side chats. And we decided as our March Madness, because I don't like brackets, we decided let's do it our way. Let's do a March Madness our way and get crazy with the interviews. We had Cullen Bunn on, we had John Lees leading it off, and we're following up the Bunn interview with a creator from Dark Horse Comics, Bartosz Sztybor, who we were enlightened on how to pronounce his name correctly, so we got that right the whole time. But I will say we had a little snafu on timing because daylight savings time. I never had an issue with this. And then we set up stuff with Bartosz, who's in Poland, and you know what? He's great. We had a blast talking about The Witcher. We were talking all about the comic, and it was a very enlightening experience, not just from the standpoint of his process, Joe, but just getting an idea of just how big The Witcher is in his home country.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to talk with him about that, and because we booked that thing before daylight savings time and never even crossed our mind. And but I'll tell you what, Bartosz was he was great, man. It was a lot of fun, and he's a great sense of humor, and we had some killer Witcher talk. So I can't wait for this one to drop.
Yep. So make sure you guys subscribe to the audio channels. Leave a 5-star rating, interview, and subscribe. Only 5 stars, otherwise you're going to learn the real meaning of backcracker. But that will put a cap or a finish on our March Madness. Doesn't mean we don't have more stuff in the hopper. It's just that we got our solicit to start off April coming up. We don't tend to book interviews during that time. But Joe, people will be able to listen to that if you're listening to us in audio form at the end of the week as the What's New drops. Make sure you go back and listen to that interview if you haven't already. But for those who are joining us on the stream, it's time to talk comics, Joe, and the releases. Actually, not the releases from this week yet, because we have to do catching up. Of course, my favorite segment. For me, Joe, I caught up on Immoral X-Men. The second issue of that came out last week. And I finally got a chance to dig into the Magic Order Volume 4. I only read the first issue, but I believe the third issue came out last week. I've picked up 1 through 3, and just more awesomeness from this series. I absolutely love. I mean, look, I love Millar in general, but the Magic Order, I don't know, is it my favorite? It might be. It's right up there. But yeah, so more awesome stuff from him. What have you been catching up on?
Well, I'll tell you what. So it's baseball season, Nicholas, and the start of every year, buy a new ball cap. For those watching, you can see I'm wearing a nice, beautiful red St. Louis Cardinals hat. I've enjoyed the Cardinals for a long time. It was a great time to purchase the hat. Problem is, with fitted hats, Nicholas, I like the low rise. They fit my head better. They didn't have the Cardinals hat in the low rise, they're just a regular, and it sits on my head funny, and I haven't gotten the brim right, so it's gonna fucking drive me nuts all show long, because I'm looking at it right, I can see it myself, and it just the curve's not right yet. It just sits on my head funny. Wow, it needs just a little bit more. Anyways, I digress.
Man's got standards. I respect that.
So I cop a Punisher. Fuck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh fuck. That was tremendous. absolutely tremendous. Because I wanted to catch up on that because of Daredevil, which we'll get into in a few moments. Dropped this week. But I caught up on the first 2 issues of Moriarty, the Clockwork Empire. Awesome,
Ooh.
awesome,
Okay.
absolutely fantastic. So I don't know how many issues this is going to be. Because it seems like they're a little bit longer than your typical issue. At least the first one was, but it's great Sherlock Holmes storytelling. It's got a steampunk vibe to it. So far, really really good. So
Ooh.
I've been
Okay.
enjoying that. I had a feeling it was going to be good. But I didn't, I'm not familiar with the writer or the artist, and it just
Sure.
right from the get go pulled me in. So that's what I caught up with.
It's always nice though when you have that hunch and then boom, you
It
end up
pays
being
off.
proven right. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's great. So hopefully, it keeps going well through at least the first arc of this. So maybe you can talk about it
Mhm.
on the show at some point. Of course, that is a Titan comic, which the only Titan book I think we've done on here is Gun Honey. And I can't wait for the second trade of that to come out because that's something I fell
Yeah.
behind on for the second volume. But anyways, enough of that. Let's get to the new comics hitting shelves this week. Joe, I know you mentioned Daredevil, but we'll get to that a little more in depth. What else is out from Marvel this week?
So we have Thor issue 32. We have Deadpool issue 5. The Invincible Iron Man issue 4. Star Wars The High Republic issue 7. Strange Academy Finals issue 5. Star Wars The High Republic The Blade issue 4, which I didn't get a chance to read yet, but I can't wait. Can't wait to get to it. It's been a great series. Sabretooth and the Exiles issue 5. Avengers Beyond issue 1. Planet Hulk Worldbreaker issue 5. Venom, not Venom, Venom Lethal Protector
Venom.
2 issue 1
Venom.
by Venom. Betsy Braddock Captain Britain issue 2. X-Men Unforgiven issue 1, which is another one I want to check out. And then we have It's Jeff issue 1. We have
Spelled the right
Clobbering.
way too.
Yeah. Clobbering Time issue 1, and then Star Wars Return of the Jedi Jabba's Palace issue 1. And then the one book from Marvel that I want to talk about, and this week is Daredevil issue 9. And I've been talking about my chip and Daredevil from day one, right? And just I'll never be able to, really fully, truly articulate just how awesome this series has been. But with this arc, and we know that it's coming to an end, I believe in August, right? Or
Yeah, it's
it's
coming. It's coming to an end. Maybe that's the last arc, something to that degree.
yeah, it's coming to an end, and so I was a little heartbroken when I saw the news. But you kind of had a feeling because of everything that Chip's doing at DC. But there's something
We knew too. He told us it wasn't going to be as long as the last one.
right, but I wasn't. I think I was just maybe I was just hoping for. It just seemed soon, like oh shit, like it was like real. It's one thing when he says yeah, it won't be as long, and then when you get that sort of finite, like
Sure.
fuck. Anyways,
That
uh,
finite fuck. Yeah, of course.
that yeah, well, again, I can't believe he ate the whole thing.
Well, heroes don't do that, Joe. That's what I've heard at least.
Yeah, right, okay, right. That's why you're a confirmed villain.
Damn straight.
So anyhow, back on track. He's done something. He's done something else with Daredevil, especially over these past 2 to 3 issues. When Devil's Reign came at the end of his first run with the character, like his understanding of Daredevil has been something else. But he's really sort of taken him to this. I don't want to say like almost Punisher like level, but he's like Daredevil's been doing things. His actions have been
Mm.
a 180 from what we're used to with the character, and I love it. I love it because to know Daredevil is to know that there's always a conflict of conscience with this character, but he doesn't seem to have that conflict right now. He's sort of going in one direction, and Daredevil be damned, conscience be damned, God be damned. I'm doing what I'm going to do, and no one can stop me. And I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, great issue all around. And the big thing for me too, on top of what you just said, Joe, is the twists that we get with some characters in this issue. It's like, oh fuck. Daredevil's gonna snap right now. He is not ready for any of this stuff, and that's very much the case. He is not prepared for this. And of course, at the end of the previous issue, we knew something was going to happen, and that we're going to see more of that going forward too. He has put himself in Chip has put him in a very interesting position, and I couldn't agree with you more. Like this has been outstanding, and every little bit, like the twists and turns along the way, and seeing him in a different position, and seeing how people want to believe in Daredevil, because who Daredevil is. You have an understanding, however you feel about heroes, you kind of get, as people in this world, you understand what Daredevil's about. But again, he's going down this road where it's kind of hard to follow him. It's not working for everybody. So
it seems like he's finally becoming the person, the hero, the anti-hero that Stick and Elektra have wanted him to be.
I agree. That is it. Yep.
Right. So I said, it's not on the same level as Punisher. I think that's where I was trying to go with that. But it seems like he's finally sort of, like I said, he's sort of putting that conflict of conscience aside, and he's sort of doing what needs to be done. And we're not used to seeing that with him.
It's not on the level of Punisher, of course, because but I think when you look at relatively, they've both had a similar wild shift for their character, the changes that they've experienced. But yeah, of course, Frank Castle is just he's out of his mind, even more than before. Let's go over to DC, Joe. So of course we've got Detective Comics 1070, which you are reading, Gotham City Year 1, Issue 6, which you are reading. Then there's Action Comics 1053, Harley Quinn 28, Unstoppable Doom Patrol Issue 1, Tim Drake, Robin Issue 7, Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods Issue 2, which we found out, right? Something about Lazarus Planet.
So Shime texted me, our good friend Christopher Shime had texted me and asked me if I'd been reading Lazarus Planet. I said I had not, and he said it was wild. So keep your peepers popped. We may we may have a guest spot on this show somewhere down the line.
Menage TLDR again. I'm gonna mix that up. I like it. Stargirl, The Lost Children Issue 5, Punchline, The Gotham Game Issue 6, Blue Beetle, Graduation Day Issue 5, Gotham Knights, Gilded City Issue 6, Sandman Universe, The Dead Boy Detective Issue 4, DCRWBY Issue 2, and then I'm pissed. I let the people down on this one, Joe. Didn't read Waller versus Wildstorm Issue 1 that's out this week. Been itching for that one to come up, but I am going to make sure I check back in on that and catching up next week for sure. But what I did read from DC Comics, which we both read, is Dark Knights of Steel Issue 10 is out this week, and this has been a can't miss series.
Yeah. So when did the last issue come out? Because I remember the way that one. It took me a second to remember how that one ended. And oh fuck,
yeah,
that's right. And
it had been a bit.
Yeah, this issue again, start to finish, was excellent, especially with the way it ended. But the new villain that we get introduced here, and the backstory and everything. It was in typical Tom Taylor fashion. It was a bit gut-wrenching and a whole shit ton of badass.
Yeah, and to me, so first of all, Yasmin Putri, this is, I believe, the first series that Yasmin has done the interior art, because I've seen Yasmin do the covers and whatnot before. That was I think it was on Nightwing and Red Hood. That was my first introduction. And I'll tell you what, I feel like there was an issue where Yasmin wasn't in. It's I noticed it because the art style is just so distinct and so well done. And I believe, and the color actually is by Arif Prianto. But still, it's perfect for the era, but also at the same time, has this shininess to it as much as a gritty era. So it's a nice mix. But yeah, from a story aspect, Joe, the way it starts off is a good kind of reset from because it does feel like it's been a little bit since we got Dark Knights of Steel issue 9. But also it's just the weight of what's going on. It's shit. It's been a little wild in the pages of Tom Taylor's story. And on top of all that too, you're right. There is an interesting history lesson that we get with one of the other characters who's introduced last issue, but also Constantine thrown under the bus. I always love it when Constantine gets thrown under the bus. Whenever he looks like an asshole, it's you know what you're doing with Constantine. So yeah, it's an awesome series. Like this is we've been talking about possibly finding ways to talk about some books on the show that we're both reading, and this is in that conversation for that type of. This is like the perfect kind of book to do that with, honestly.
Oh yeah, it's just been so good, and this is a book that I do and have recommended to everyone, anyone that'll listen. End of January is when issue 9 came out, so it's been about
Oh yeah,
2 months, right?
yeah, it has been a
So not
while.
not too long, but long enough. Where like,
I
oh shit,
wonder if that's because of Yasmin, because like whenever like there was that issue that we didn't have Yasmin as artist, like I noticed it. Like this isn't
yeah,
this seems a little bit
right,
different. And then I checked,
yeah,
boom, yep. So
yeah.
gotta make sure that we have her on that. But anyways, let's see. Oh, we got Boom next.
Yes. So we have Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue 5, which is a series I've been meaning to catch up on. I feel like I started to read the first issue and it might not have been my cup of tea. And maybe that's why I've fallen off on it, or I could have just forgotten it altogether. So, but this is a
Mm,
series I plan on catching up on. We have the conclusion to The Approach, which has been a great little horror
mm.
book that I've been enjoying. It definitely comes to an end, but it sets up the possibility of another arc should they, choose to go that route. Hopefully they do.
TLDR.
Uh,
No.
mm, there's more books that I have higher up on the queue. That's not to say that it's not, and that's not to say that it was an excellent book, but it's one that sort of like is right on the cusp of
Yeah, I have another one. Like
potential.
I have one like that too, which we'll
Yeah.
get to a little bit later.
Something is killing the children, issue 30. Just it's fucking perfection.
Mm,
Awesome issue. This arc is, I think, is my favorite arc out of the entire series so far. And then lastly, from Boom, we have this is this is a book that it's two properties that we both love, and it's written by Ryan Parrott, who we love. It's drawn by Dan Moore, who we love, and I feel like this is like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TMNT 2 issue 4, and I feel like this is a book that, like, if you were to just look at it on its face and just, not know who Ryan Parrott is and not know who Dan Moore is, and you just saw it, you go, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TMNT, like, this is just going to be a silly book. But this is anything but, right?
mm,
And I got into, this late because I read the first volume right before I read, started before this came out, and I absolutely love it. And while at times it feels a little predictable,
mm-hmm,
or at least I felt that way. And then we get to this issue, and then the way things get turned on their head, I go, I get it, I get it.
mm-hmm,
It's like it makes perfect sense. And Moore's Moore's action pages, and then the two things we got, one from last issue, or was it last issue of the issue before, where we get oh, that should be an action figure, and then we get another one at the end of this issue with Krang, and I go, well, I fucking want that.
yeah.
That looks fucking awesome. But like,
Mm,
this is the most kick-ass fun series
mm-hmm.
I've ever read, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. This is like very like this is like kind of like it's an event comic, obviously because you're mixing in two different properties together. But it's like it's all about like just like the wild nature of what's going on in their world and these two properties, like having fun with them. But it's you're right, like there was a thing that we've been like wondering, okay, what's Ryan exactly doing here? And then boom, like it's like, oh
Yeah,
shit. Well,
yeah.
so this is all supposed to happen.
And
Um,
that's on me because I
yeah,
should know better, because Ryan is an excellent writer, right?
yeah.
And I should have known better, because I was enjoying it just for what it was.
Mhm.
And then there was just, I don't know what it was about this issue where it took something that I was enjoying very, very much and just took it right to that next level. And I go,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, this is yeah,
Yeah,
this is
this
really good.
is yeah, absolutely. And also, like you brought up, like there are we've been talking about in this series, like what's so awesome about this is like you're getting like action figure like ideas out of these series. Like that's what happened in the first arc, and then you're also getting like a fun story and all of that too with like familiar characters, and it's great for people like us who grew up with TMNT in your case, and I grew up with both TMNT and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Also great. This is a book you can absolutely hand to your nephew. Honestly, it's probably one that, I mean, he's a little bit younger, but I can hand it to my oldest nephew as well. It's just it's a great book for all ages. But you're getting a good story, and then you're getting so many action figures ideas. And we've already gotten a few early on in this series. We got like, what was it previously? Probably got like 5 or 6, something like that. First issue we get one, then we get one with the Rangers, and now we just got 5 more in this issue alone. And I'm like, I mean, what am I gonna do? Like, I only have so much space, and there's other characters, but it's like, fuck, man. There's at least
I've run out of space.
There's like 2 or like I look at this series and I'm like, there's like 4 I could buy in this.
Yeah,
it's just nuts. It's absolutely insane. And again, on top of all that, you're getting a fun series too. So
yeah,
it's wild stuff. Definitely must read for anybody that's a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or TMNT fan. Read the first volume, then go and read this. You will be happy that you did. Let's see. Oh, then we got AWA, Joe. Your I guess your mortal enemies now. Is that you? I can't remember. Go ahead.
AWA. Why? You know, they just mock me at every twisted turn.
I love it,
and all I do is love them and just kick me like a wounded puppy. But so this week from AWA, no new series or continuation of a series, but we have a trade paperback dropping this week from them. Erratic Recharged. So it's volume 2. Talked about Erratic, the first volume on the show a ways back. And so I caught up. I read the trade so I could chat about it, because I think, this is one of those series, AWA wanted to have a Resistance universe story that could be for all ages, right? They wanted to be able to tap into a younger audience, give you that sort of Spider-Man sort of vibe, with their books to kind of pull people in. And so, just a bit of a refresher on the character, is that he's he can only use his powers for 10 minutes a day.
Really cool concept.
Yep. And the first arc was really good. This second arc gets a little bit deeper, with your main character. And I apologize, I'm blanking on the name right now. I'm having a senior moment, but he's having this real sort of crisis of, identity. He doesn't want to be. He's supposed to be a normal kid, right? And again, we get some Peter Parker vibes out of that, right? Just sort of like, I just want to go about my day. I've got a hot ass girlfriend, right? I just want to, but what we get through is we get some really good social commentary throughout all this, again, without it being like hit you in the, hit you in the face with it. Like, it's the undertones are there. It's Kari Andrews he writes and draws it, so the art is beautiful. The story,
and Oliver Leaf is your character.
Thank you. So Oliver, so he's dealing with some shit, and he's getting it from all fucking angles. And so while this is more geared towards younger readers, maybe in that 13, 14, 15, it's just really for everyone. I can't recommend it enough. It's a lot of fun. It's it's different in tone than you get with the Resistance that you get with Moths and you get with all the other Resistance universe titles, but it fits the universe really well. And it's got a really good villain, and again, like the social commentary in here, it's great. I think it's very fitting for that's what AWA does well. They want to Axel's, when he multiple times he's been on a show, has talked about like one of their pillars is to keep their stories grounded in sort of what's going on present day, and not be sort of reliant on sort of the past and what made comic book stories of the past so great. So if you've got someone that that's getting into comics and you want to introduce them to something new, and something they might relate to, go pick up the first, volume, the first 2 volumes of Erratic and give it to them. There's no doubt they're going to like it. And then hopefully we'll introduce them to a whole other set of, indie comics.
Yeah, and you know what? I was planning on picking this up in general, but now again, like thinking like younger reader and stuff like that. This may be something that, because I already gave him like some Sonic comics and he liked those, so this may be
Yeah.
something else. I'll look through it first, of course. But yeah, and also too, like this is the concept alone is just friggin' brilliant. Like the 10 minutes for the power, and like that's it.
And
Like,
you got to choose. You got to methodically choose when you're not going to use it.
and it's just with certain characters or stories, like if you go too long with them and whatever, like you like how can I put this character in a type of spot, like every time, like it's I could see how creators would run into issues with that just in general from like a conceptual standpoint. This character has a built-in issue all the time that is
Yeah.
very much at the forefront and makes what like saving the day so infinitely harder.
Yeah, and the pacing is tremendous too. I
Mm,
flew through this, absolutely
yep.
flew through it. So, thank you, Oliver. Yeah, Joseph. So, anyways, highly recommend it. I recommend it to anybody. Really, it's that good.
Nice. Let's see. From Dark Horse this week, we got Hellboy in Love issue 4, Dragon Age: The Missing issue 3, and Lady Baltimore: The Dream of Ikelos issue 1, and then the 4th issue of It's Only Teenage Wasteland. Now, this is a book that I did call dibs on, and I like this series, but kind of similarly how you talked about the approach, there are other books that I kind of want to talk about sooner that are higher up on the list. It is a good series. I'm going to continue reading it. Maybe over maybe a little bit more time, it'll move up on the list because this issue like takes it like opens up this story to go on for quite a bit longer. So we'll see where that goes. But it's like it's a solid series. Like it's a good series. But there are others on the list that are a little bit higher of a priority for me at this point.
Well, that's
Um,
good because I forgot you called dibs and I've been reading it.
no, you haven't. Are you serious? Oh, yeah, okay, I thought so. Oh, yeah, he's just unbelievable. And I was worried about that with a certain image book that we will get to at the end here. Why don't you take us through the other indie titles?
Okay, so from IDW, we have Dungeons and Dragons Saturday Morning Adventures issue 1. Side note: this is a fun thing they're doing. They've been doing this with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love this. I love this idea because I think what we're starting to see, especially with the movie coming out, but we're seeing a younger audience get into Dungeons and Dragons. So I
Hmm,
think this is brilliant. Getting
yeah.
getting younger people into comics. We have Dead Seas issue 4 and Star Trek Strange New Worlds Illyrian Enigma issue 4. From Vault, we have Heart Eyes issue 5, Godfell issue 2, Songs for the Dead Afterlife issue 1. From Dynamite, we have the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. No, just kidding. We have Unbreakable Red Sonja issue 5. We have Rocket Man and Rocket Girl issue 1. From Aftershock, a book I have been enjoying very, very much, Bulls of Beacon Hill issue 3. From Comixology, we have the 5th issue of Barnstormers. I'm looking forward to that. And then from Frank Miller Presents, we have Ancient Enemies issue 3.
And then to round things out, we have Image, where of course we're going to have a few books to talk about, but not a crazy long list of books that are coming out this week. We got
Surprising.
the 10th issue of Blood-Stained Teeth, the 6th issue of Lovesick. We have the Ambassadors issue 1, which is written by Mark Millar, but he doesn't put out review copies of his stuff. It seems like in general. So I know there have been some reviews out there, but it's whatever. But we'll probably one of us will circle back on that, if not both of us. Between what you didn't call, you actually you called dibs on this book, didn't you?
Sure did, Chief.
All right. So that well, another book that you called dibs on had its second issue come out this week. So you want to tell the people about it?
Yes, I do. So I've been waiting for this issue, and I'm waiting for the next issue even more because man, we weren't given any details. We were just told wait until you see what happens. And when that comes from Rodney Barnes himself, shit's gonna happen. And if you've been reading Philadelphia, this arc in particularly, right? If you've been staying up on it, um, it's been fucking wild. It's been this series from the rip has been nonstop, but this last arc, the last several issues have just been just absolute banger after banger after banger. And so with Philadelphia issue 29, dropping this week, after what's happened the last 3 issues, I'm just wondering, okay,
Mm-hmm.
who now, right? And what I loved about this issue is the way it started. And this was again like Rodney's been doing something, he's been tapping into one of the things that I love most um from Jeff Lemire and Sean Lewis. And that is tapping into human emotion. And he really has been doing that, he's doing an excellent job of the last few issues, but this one in particular, with the way he starts it off, where it's just you see a picture of someone and then their name, right, and then boom, 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 and then we start we get the narration, and then where the issue goes on from here. And this was an extremely impactful issue.
Mm.
Not a lot happened, right, but also a ton happened at the same time,
Yep.
right? So there wasn't like pages or panels upon panels of action sequences. It was a lot of self-reflection. It was a lot of um again social commentary. And then the way, this was a real bookend issue, because the way it started and the way it finished were some of the best stuff that we've gotten in this series. And that's not to say that the stuff in the middle, wasn't good. No, it was excellent, but there was just something very poignant about the way it started, and then holy shit, game changing with the way it ended. That like if this issue was like this, then what the fuck does he have planned for issue 30?
This is along the lines of what I thought he had planned for issue 30. This is what I thought he was going for. And then but at the same time, we know like it's like very emotional. Jason Sean Alexander has
Oh,
tweeted about it and stuff like that too. Very excited to talk with Rodney about this after the arc. But I'm like dying. Like, what is issue 30? Because again, this is absolutely bananas. And also Herman Aramasup has been awesome.
mhm.
Awesome with the line art on this arc, and of course, Jason Sean Alexander is doing the layouts and the inks here. But again, what's been so wild to me about this arc is the not just like what's happening, because that's of course like it's been nuts, but the things that are happening could have happened over a couple of issues. And also after a point, Rodney has in a way seemed to have telegraphed what's going to be happening, because after it happens a few times and it keeps happening and happening, it's like, okay, then I'm expecting the same outcome, if not a similar
Yep.
one. And it's still every single time it is amazing. Like like it's with Philadelphia, like it's just, you're right, like in the sense of like it's not to say that the second arc and the third arc weren't awesome, and obviously the first one was great, but to me this is unquestionably the best one, and this is some of Rodney's best writing like that I've ever seen in any of his other work, because I'm looking at Monarch and then his Marvel stuff and everything, and of course he's done, not counting the TV stuff because that's different, but it's mind blowing like how he's been able, like, we know what's happening and I'm still like sucked in the entire time. There's nothing else that's going to pull me from reading an issue of Philadelphia in this fourth arc more than any of the other arcs that that they've put out so far. And of course, like the art has been great, the action has been nuts. I mean, I have a guess for what's going to happen in issue 3. I'm not going to say it, now, because I don't want to be right, but it's just like, man, like I just wonder what has happened over this arc too. Like, we know there was war happening and it's happening right now. I'm just wondering what the fuck's going to happen with the story. Like how are they going to do a fifth arc? What is that going to look like? Because damn, like who's going to be left?
Oh well, so storytelling aside, right? And this particular issue, I think, is the how do I want to say this? It is the best tag team work between writer and artist
Mm,
that I have seen in some time, especially in this series, right? Whether it's Jason Sean Alexander or
come
uh,
on.
Herman, thank you. Because they both have the same aesthetic, they both have the same feel, right? But the way Rodney wrote it and then the way they drew it and brought the art together, like the merging of those two things, it was absolute perfection in this issue, because again, it touched on everything. You've had the great storytelling, but I think between vision, right? Between what Rodney wanted and what they gave him, I think it merged perfectly.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a better instance or another instance in this series where it has just come together so well. And that's saying something, because the 28 issues prior to this have all been excellent
Yeah.
storytelling and art. But I don't know what it was about this issue that just sort of hit me so hard, because I think it was that self-reflection. It was
Mm,
that acceptance of, this is what I wanted to do. This is where I went astray. This is where I failed. Um, and having that recognition of all of that, and then just there's this image, and I don't want to give anything away, but we see it just a particular character, and he's just, he's down on his knees, and
mm,
he's saying okay, and then just the fucking that action scene, man.
yeah.
wa- it was something else, and like this book has not been short of viciousness when it comes to art, right? And this scene was vicious, but we've seen it taken up a, a few more notches than we got
Mm,
here. But there was just something about that panel,
yeah.
because of the buildup that we had from the pages prior to it. It was just exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very well said. It is wild, like, because we love this series. I mean, you talked about it on the show a long while back, but it's amazing how we're seeing a top notch, like, all time Image comic series, and with like the first three arcs, very good, very well done, and then it's like this fourth one. It's like it's next level. It is unbelievable to say that about an already awesome series.
There's no doubt that 10, 20 years from now, this book's still going to be people be
Mm,
grabbing, the
yep.
graphic novel, and you got to read Philadelphia. You're going to be seeing this book on lists of like top 10 all-time graphic novels, or top 10 all-time horror books, or top 10 vamp, whatever. Like, this is one of those books that I think that is going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. But one thing I do want to add, I was setting you up to talk about a book that has a second issue coming out this week, not talk about Philadelphia, but I had to save that towards the until we were done talking about
It's okay.
Philadelphia.
I couldn't help myself. One, it was first on my list to talk about, but two, that's just, I wanted to make sure that I said, what I wanted to say about it.
Mhm.
Because it was, I didn't want to lose my train of thought there.
Sure.
But the other book I read, so I texted you this morning after I read the second issue,
Mhm.
and I not only did I call dibs, it's in the sheet, but I said, not only is this a TLDR book, but I'm putting this on my short list to talk about at the end of the year. And then you said, for potential book of the year, and I said, "Yep."
Crazy.
And so that would be Local Man, issue 2. Could you pull? I know the writer is Tim Seeley. If you could pull up the
Yeah, I'll get
artist
that.
for
Go
me.
ahead.
But I've been enjoying Tim Seeley's writing a lot lately. He's also writing West of Sundown, which I enjoy, and I always love that. Like, you kind of like there might be a writer that you sort of find for the first time, and then without even realizing it, now you're reading a bunch of their books. And oh fuck, this person's really really good. And so Local Man issue 2, I read the first issue. I didn't read it right away. It was one of those books I sort of had to, caught up on after the fact. But it's sort of about this. I don't want to call him exiled superhero, but his name's Crossjack, and he's basically been kicked out of this world's version of the Justice League. We still don't know exactly why yet. But the character, like, he goes, he's been kicked out. He returns home. No one in this fucking town likes him. His parents don't even fucking like him. And he's just sort of like one of those characters where just like he's shit just happens.
Mm,
And I think that's a really cool concept, for a superhero. Because he's got these powers, but he's not allowed to use them because they've either been trademarked, and since he's been kicked out of the group, he's not allowed to use them, or for whatever reason, he's not allowed. So the concept for this book is wild. I love the main character. Tim Seeley's writing has been tremendous.
So Tony Fleeks and Tim Seeley, and they are both the
Yes.
artists on this as well. Seeley does the third gen art, and then Fleeks does I believe I'm saying that right, does the
Yep.
Farmington art.
And Fleeks did Stray Dogs, which I talked about on the show, right?
Yeah,
Right.
okay,
So
yep.
they're both really good storytellers, and they're both really good artists. Like I was familiar with Seeley's art before I was familiar with him as a writer. And same thing with Fleeks, right? I mean, Fleeks was, he, I believe, was also the artist on Stray Dogs. He was also an artist for My Little Pony, I think,
Oh,
for a
really?
while,
Huh.
which is wild. But Local Man, this is just your typical kick-ass image book about sort of a deadbeat superhero who's, now he's sort of trying to figure there's something as afoot, and he wants to investigate, but he's not allowed. And so that's sort of where this is going, So this I can't wait to talk about this book, in more detail, because it seems like it's going to be really fucking good.
And it seems like you're not alone in that too, because I remember when the first issue came out, there was quite a bit of buzz. It seemed, at least on Twitter,
Yeah,
from what we can at least see of people that we want to hear from on Twitter, because
you got to
that
pay
whole
for
thing.
that now, right?
Yeah,
Did you see that? If you don't pay for Twitter, then you're not going to get like only people who pay for Twitter will pop up on your feed or something like
it's
that.
so it's
Yeah.
so it's bananas. But anyways, let's see here. Oh, so all right, so Local Man, awesome stuff. Excited to hear about that. Of course, I have to wait a while to actually read it. But a book that you're gonna have to wait on is Indigo Children. The first issue of that is out this week. I called dibs on this, knowing that it was supposed to be a blend of two titles that you've talked about on the show, Department of Truth and Radiant Black. And as you mentioned, like going in, like that's the way, that's what you're going to compare it to.
It's a
Those
high
two,
bar.
that is a high bar. And I see where the Radiant Black portion of that is in this, but this is definitely more Department of Truth, definitely more
Okay.
conspiracy. There are like powered individuals involved in this, and we're going to learn more about them. We don't learn a whole heck of a lot in this first issue, but about those characters, we do understand like it's very taboo. And we're following this journalist throughout the story who's learning about, who's been learning about these individuals over like a 6-month period of time, and we see how like he's playing with fire at this moment, and there's people he's coming across that like want to help him, but it's like I don't know if I can help you because I'm probably being watched, you're probably being watched. It's not going to go over well. The other thing with this too is this is like an extra size like first issue, but the pacing on this is really good. Like there's a lot of information that gets unloaded, like in the early portion of it, whereas we're learning about these the Indigo Children. But then it's like and before that it's going pretty quick, and then later on it goes quick. So as much as we're getting dropped into this like this new story, as much as it feels like it could happen like in our world essentially, it's basically set in that way. It move like there's a lot of information to unload, but it's moving at a very quick pace and everything. So it's like we have an idea of what's going on, but there's really just so much that's left to be unpacked. So a really good first issue. Very excited to check out the second one when that comes out next month, I would assume.
Nice.
All
Nice.
right.
Okay.
And that does it for us on new releases for this weekend for what's new. Unless you have anything else that you want to touch on.
I will say this, Nicholas, because this has been fucking driving me batshit. So, your fucking background. I'm in the lead here. I should be the top. You should be the fucking bottom. This looks. Anyone watching on streams will look at this and be like, "This looks fucking stupid."
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I just was following AWA's lead. That's just kind of where I was going with this. And
Am
with
I?
that, what?
Am I normally on the? Well,
I don't
the
know,
way I'm
dude.
looking at it, whatever.
No, when we do the
Figure out your
actual,
fucking deal next time, okay?
it's
Because
always
visually,
my
this is
fault.
this is driving me
Mhm.
fucking bananas.
I think our listeners are sensing the same trend that I am sensing. And with that, Joe, until next week, solicit next week, stay sexy.
You know that's right. But seriously,